Recording.
Starting at 2:38, I got 2:37. AMAT's committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are presented by staff or consultant. After the committee discusses the business item, the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic. A couple housekeeping items. If you are joining us virtually and you are not a member of the committee, please turn off your camera if you are not speaking to an item. If you are joining us by phone, please mute and unmute the microphone by pressing *6. Let's do if to approve the agenda.
John,
Roll call.
the chair, would you like me to do roll call?
Yes.
Matt Pritchard, I believe he's not here. John Scudder,
Present.
Jay Klein,
Yes, here.
Steve Horn,
Here.
Anna Evans, here. Mike Rayburn,
Present.
Mike Fenster,
Here.
Bruce Bustamante, Debbie Rinke, Bob French,
Present.
Jim Winchester.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any guests or guests from any other organizations present, or and members of the public that would like to introduce themselves?
We can do it when they get to their business side.
Okay, we can move on to the agenda, John.
Okay. Need to approve the agenda.
Does SJ move to approve?
Second.
We have an edit to the agenda.
Oh.
We need to add an item to the agenda under project and plans update. To add in the Seward Highway to Glen Highway PEL presentation by the project team.
Is that an item F, you're saying, or
It would be 6B.
6B? Do we need a motion to amend this?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move to amend.
Second.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. Approved as amended. Need to approve the meeting minutes from 1 November. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve these minutes as written?
French move to approve.
This is SJ, I'll second.
Anyone opposed to the minutes as written?
Only question I've got, under business items, we had support of the TIP resolution, which is something that then we took on a special meeting. Are there minutes of the special meeting as well? Okay,
Yeah, there's 3 minutes to approve today.
okay, great. Oh, I see.
Anybody else opposed? Anyone else opposed? Okay, they're approved as written. Next set of minutes are from 7 November. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as written?
This SJ, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Mike second.
Anyone
Oh.
opposed? Approved as written. December 13th minutes.
Finster move to approve.
This SJ, I'll second.
Anyone opposed? Approved as written. Next item.
So this,
So, yeah, the next item, is chair and vice chair elections. Your current chair is not present, so I think we had this problem last January, but if you would like to table it until your next board meeting, we can do that, or you can,
See, I always find that when somebody's not present, that's the time to appoint them chair for the next year, right? I'll move the table till next month.
Second.
This is SJ.
Finster second.
Any discussion?
Unless you wanted to appoint Matt to chair for the next year.
I think we need his concurrence. I'd move to table it as you recommended. Do we need to, no discussion and any further discussion, I should say? Anyone opposed to tabling it to our next meeting? Okay. It's tabled to our next meeting.
So I guess I have a general question on the bylaw changes before us. Are all committees being given the same set of bylaws to approve? And then when all of them are approved, they get taken to the policy committee for acceptance, or how is that working?
yes, we're, so this is the first committee to see them. We're trying to make all the advisory committees, so the CAC, the Freight Advisory Committee, and the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, having the same bylaws. We're bringing these changes to you to just kind of clarify language so that it can be streamlined moving forward. Once it has approval, it'll go through TAC and PC for final approval. So these are just staff proposed changes, for you to look at and weigh in on.
I'll move to approve the bylaws, the bylaws update as presented. Just so we can get started.
This is Steve Horn, second.
Any discussion?
Here, this is SJ, starting off in the preamble, I had a question about adding the H and the G and H kind of together. Basically saying the policy committee needs to approve anything outside of A through G. And then G says basically anything that this committee or the policy committee think is appropriate. I'm just wondering how those two work together. I mean, anything outside of any activity determined by the committee. I know I'm just kind of curious about that choice of language. To begin with, we'll put that to staff or whoever put this, put that question to whoever kind of put this in front of us.
Christine, can you speak to that?
Yeah, Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel, as I'm reading them together, I do feel like they're saying the same thing, but H is saying it more concisely, that anything outside of A through F the policy committee will need to approve.
Okay, well, it says except A through G, so.
Right.
So are you thinking that maybe we don't need to at all?
Well, I mean, my question is, you know, the way I read this right now, the CAC decides it wants to take on something that's not A through F. And I don't feel like coming up with a hypothetical right now. But we decide to take on something that's outside of A through F. According to G, that's within our purview, but according to H, it would need to be approved by the policy committee. So which is it, is my question.
It would need to be approved by the policy committee.
Okay, so,
These three committees are advisory to the policy committee.
right,
So to streamline A through F, maybe it's worded incorrectly by saying G. Maybe G is not needed, and that can be a comment that this committee makes. But we want the committees to be able to, in a timely manner, comment on plans and provide input on A through F without everything needing to go through the policy, because that's time consuming. But anything outside of those particular items, no hypothetical in mind, but that would mean approval, since they are advisory committees to the policy.
right.
I propose that we just strike G, that current G, and make H be G.
Okay, so you're moving an amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So Diane moves an amendment to strike G. Although right now, I guess, considering this is a process question, so point of order, are we able to amend this as presented, or are we just making suggestions to send to at this point? Are we adopting this for ourselves, or are we making suggestions for this to be adopted by one of the other committees?
You're making suggestions for it to be adopted eventually by the policy committee.
Okay.
And really quickly, before you actually take any action on this item, we have to do public comment on the item for any members of the public who are here. So we're a little premature on.
Okay.
in a second.
All right, so the motion, okay,
So we need to hold off. on
so I will withdraw my motion. Are you okay with that, Mike? Having seconded it? Oh, whoever seconded it? No, well, I'm talking about the first motion to. Oh, yeah, that was, online. Who was on?
No, Steve Horn, I'm okay with that, yes.
Okay. Great. Okay, so this is just discussion. All right, so yeah, I guess I guess I would agree with Dan's suggestion that we strike G just for clarity. G and H just are in conflict.
Duly noted.
Are we still in discussion?
Yeah.
Is there someone here from the policy committee who can answer questions?
I don't believe so.
I'm just, I'd like to know what problem we're solving, if this is true, if this is just housekeeping, because it does. A couple of changes, well, the preamble one, it certainly seems to be a way to limit scope, and I don't know if there's a problem if the committee tends to act outside its usual scope, if that's a thing we're fixing. And the item about that we must have a vote on any action item that's posted a week ahead of time. Is that restricting us from tabling something to a following meeting? I don't know what item that was. It's a little deeper.
253.
Some of them seem to be a little limiting, but I kind of doubt that's the intent.
Oh, I see what you're saying, like 253, I think the intent there, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I mean, it looks like the intent there is that we have to give a week's notice before we can vote. And although the way this is written, we have to vote on something if it's been posted a week ago.
I had a.
Right.
proposed
Yeah,
worksheet
so that's what-
page when we
yeah.
were Gathering for
Yeah.
that particular one. 'cause it
That
didn't
makes sense.
seem
So-
right.
So it should say maybe voting cannot happen on an item that has not been posted 1 week in advance. That would make more sense and be more clear.
I'm probably fine either way. I just wanted to know
Yeah.
if we're being pushed to vote and not consideration. If that's.
I mean, I think we have the right to table,
Which
and
would be a vote itself.
right.
You're voting regardless. But yeah, it is unclear, it probably needs to be switched around, that we have to do a week's notice.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you could, what I was thinking was voting may proceed on an action item as long as it was posted with an agenda 1 week in advance.
Sure. Yeah, my language, that accomplishes the same thing.
Point.
Thank you.
So I guess we're still just discussing, but we're not proposing.
We're not taking action on this.
I think your recommendations are being noted in the minutes. Am I correct, Christine?
Yes.
So are you looking for concurrence from the body on any of these suggestions, or are you just taking suggestions right now for us to deliberate later?
I think we're looking for doing
We'd be looking for a vote for any changes you want to make to what was presented to you all here.
At the end or
So-
as we go?
What has to happen is we introduce the item, you're done. Then you do any questions the committee members have. Once that's done, you open it up to the public for any input from the public. Once that's closed, then you take action on the item.
Okay,
So we're at the question stage right now.
I've got a question, between 2.4.2 and 2.4.3. So that's where we've got members who may be absent and excused or requesting to send an alternate member, 48 hours ahead. 2.4.3 says if we fail to attend 3 consecutive scheduled meetings, we could be terminated or we will be terminated. Is failing to attend a meeting include meetings where you've sent an alternative member?
Look at 4.4 right now.
Okay, right.
Remember the committee has
Got
really
it. Got it. Okay, thank you for that.
that.
I don't read that fast, so thanks.
but I do have a kind of related question. I didn't understand if you were excused, does that mean is an excused absence count toward failing to attend a meeting?
No, typically if you, well.
Yeah.
I guess it's up to you how you guys want to handle it.
I have then we get into the problem of what's considered a excused absence.
I agree with John. I mean, you think about it, you missed 3 consecutive meetings, you've missed 9 months of meetings. You're not really a member of this committee or this commission,
And the reason I was kind of curious, because it seemed like in our past meetings, someone has said, well, so-and-so has an excuse. So it almost sounded to me like you were excusing them from their required attendance. So was that not the case? You were counting them as absent when they had an excuse? I mean, what have we been doing? I don't know.
We mark them absent, but if they've told us that they're not coming, that's usually when that language comes into play.
So
previously.
that meant they were counted as not present and they had failed to attend the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. I think we should make that clear. That even though you're excused, you are not, you will be counted as missing that meeting, failing to attend that meeting, unless you appoint an alternate.
Well, I mean. 2.4.2. Member intending to be absent from a regular meeting shall request the chair to be excused. Or request to send the alternate member on file 48 hours prior to the meeting being missed.
Or what?
I'm not quite sure you guys- Yeah,
So if the intent is an excuse absent,
Well, I think the intent there is to give notice 48 hours ahead of being gone so that we can plan around it. I mean, is that what the adding the 48 hours is in there?
We'll have to give us a staff time to get everything in order, to make sure that the individual has enough information. Because if, often what happens, people will tell us, an hour before the meeting, hey, I'm not gonna be there. Well, that's not really helpful for us.
Right.
So,
the 48 hours is if they're going to have an alternate attend, not to be excused.
yeah, I guess the question comes up, do you guys want to allow excused absence for members? Of the committee?
I mean, other commissions that have been on will make a distinction between excused and inexcused absences. Maybe 2 inexcused absences and you're off, while 3 excused absences and you're off, or something like that. I don't know that we want to do that here. I mean, I think missing 3 is a pretty clear cutoff,
But I
and
think,
I'm fine with that.
but I think if it were written as an excused absence is not counted as absence, certainly 2 inexcused absences or no alternate would be plenty to get you terminated from the committee.
Is this the same wording that is used in the other committees? The same procedure?
Yeah, so whatever you,
Yeah, it started at these are the first time these edits are being presented, but the original text is the same.
I'm fine with the quorum and absence language. I mean, I think somebody misses 3 meetings, we've got a problem anyway. I mean,
If they miss 2, we got a problem.
well, sure,
That's for the vote. on this
Yeah.
vote.
that's fair. Right? Any other comments you have?
I guess, yeah, the only bit about the preamble. The items on our agenda today, would any of those have required pre-approval by policy committee before we talked about them? If the new
nothing
bylaw.
required pre-approval, it would have to go to the policy committee after you act it. So for example, the letter to the legislature would have to go to the policy committee for approval. And the resolution on the Seward Glen PL has to go to the policy committee for approval. And that's what the preamble change is trying to address. To make it clear that there are limits to what you guys can do on your own.
Right. I was wondering if that was the meat of it, if that was the purpose of the change.
Yes. Not just because of those items, but because in the past, items have come forward that haven't really been part of the preamble. And we were like trying to figure out what to do. So that kind of started the conversation. Okay, what can you guys do on your own? And then what has to go to the PAC and policy?
So I guess the question for our committee is, do we adopt a change that puts our input through the policy committee?
Right.
And is our input congruent to the AMATs and the planning process? I guess is what.
So Mike, what you're.
That's what they're gonna use as a filter.
Yeah, so what you're suggesting is that we have opinions on something, maybe mostly by the policy committee. Is that kind of what you're?
Well, that's what this tells us to do.
Right.
Right, and that's the point I'm making. Is that something we want to change in our bylaws?
Right. It's an excellent question.
Just pointing out the obvious.
Yeah.
I have some discussion on the voting section. So the first 251, I think that's fine and in the right place. I think that 2.5.3 should really be 2.5.2. Basically, 2.5.3 and 2.5.2 should switch places. And then my third item that I would like to add is, and this happened a while ago and it kind of settled down, but it's still been on my mind. we had email voting, and people who did not respond to the email were counted as present and submitting a no vote. And I would like to consider that this section as the last in this item. If voting is solicited by email, a member is considered present only if they respond with an email returning a vote.
I think that's fair.
We're actually removing email voting from all of our committees.
So should we specify that then that voting must happen
In notice, during notice meetings. is that what you're
in
saying?
person or virtually?
We can add that in, yeah.
That would be fine with me because before it was silent and I felt like we did something without a procedure.
So how it all came about is, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee was voting by email on items that were on an agenda, but the vote happened not during a public meeting. And that we don't want to do. So all voting needs to happen during a publicly noticed meeting.
Well, and we did too.
Oh, well,
We did tip swearing changes by email. And that's when it
Kind
happened.
of been a little fast and loose over the last few years. So these bylaw changes are helping to kind of lock down some of those requirements so everyone is aware of what needs to happen.
If that's true, I think we need to put in the bylaws. To be honest. Yes, sorry,
that's
Christine.
what we're talking about.
It's one point of clarification, 2.4.5 is kind of getting at that. It's, so we did add the telephonic meetings during COVID so that you could vote in virtual meeting space. And then we're adding, as long as the public has been invited to attend the virtual meeting. And that was, so maybe that's the language that you might want to clarify even more, but that was where we were alluding to the email, because that email space would not be a space that the public has been invited to.
We could just put including voting, all meetings, including voting should happen.
So what happens now? We're supposed to open it to the floor?
Oh, I have one other, thing to, I'm wondering, there's a distinction between special meetings and regular meetings as far as the, attendance, and, I feel like, that a special meeting is just as important as a regular meeting, and there shouldn't be a distinction as far as attendance.
Which number is that again?
You're talking about 2.4.3.
Yeah,
I disagree with that. I think special meetings sometimes happen, we'll send out a doodle poll and, I mean, the doodle poll, you're not gonna make everybody happy. If somebody can't attend that, why should that count towards the 3 meetings that they missed, they're kicked off?
but they have 2 or 3 meetings.
Sure, they have
like
2 more
that.
they can make, right?
We're doing business.
That's fair.
I think when we are doing business, we should
We
take
should
our
intend to all be here.
things seriously.
But not for special meetings. I don't think that's appropriate for special meetings.
Well, I mean, we set special meetings when we don't have enough time to handle the business that we're trying to get done here at our quarterly meeting, I mean, so, if we want to get something done, I do agree with Diane that it's important that we attend. But I guess the question is, do we make that part of our 3 strikes and you're out?
Well, it's,
Yeah.
you have the flexibility of having an alternate to cover yourself. So we're giving people flexibility.
But not everyone has assigned an alternate or wants an alternate. And I don't think you should penalize people for not being able to attend a special meeting that was called, a week before. You know, the regularly attended meetings, we tell people when those are gonna happen well in advance. But special meetings, I don't think should be counted for as the three consecutive missed meetings. I think that's unfair.
Well, I guess what they do is they, give up their vote.
Right. I do have a question about the 243 though. I mean, basically the way this is written, somebody can miss 4 out of 5 meetings and still be on this commission. Is that kind of, miss 2, make 1, miss the next 2, and you're still on the commission?
But I mean, the
Yeah.
committee can make a determination at any point if they feel that the person is not satisfying their role based on attendance in that regard. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes people are out sick or family things for a couple of meetings, and then they are able to make it for one more, and then they're out for something else.
I mean, I know it took me a while to figure out how to attend this meeting and keep coming to it, Sick of me.
I mean, for a volunteer group, getting so into the weeds to be like, if you don't attend every single meeting, it really is, challenging, punishing for people who want to attend.
But you're also penalizing their district or their representation by their inability to attend,
Well, then maybe they shouldn't be on the committee.
which is why
Maybe that's why you
they
have a
should
discussion
be.
with them.
I think if you put it out in the bylaws that this is your requirement, and then it's up for that person to decide. If I can't make 2 meetings, then if I think I'm going to have that problem and I feel strongly that I do not want an alternate, then maybe I shouldn't be on this, take this on.
So what now? Christian,
Public comment, you're done with your.
ready? Are we done? John, are we done? Do we have anyone online? Any commissioners online that want to speak?
I've agreed with the conversation so far. So are there any other discussion items from anyone? And Christine, you have the documented the comments? Yeah.
After we go to public comment, we can address each of those as a vote. If you'd like to open it up for public comment.
And John's sharing, right?
Yes.
Hey, John, you have to answer that. Okay.
Can we have,
Oh, is there- So is there a motion to open the amended as for public comment?
You
Excuse
don't
me.
need to do a motion, you can just open it for public comment.
Okay, we don't need a vote or anything?
Not to ask for the public's input on this item, no.
Okay. Then with the discussion that we've had, I feel that we can put it out for public comment.
Okay, I see Nancy Pease's hand is raised. Nancy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. On the topic of attendance, I, as a citizen, would not feel well represented by somebody who missed 4 out of 5 meetings, as you described. I urge you to think in terms of earlier rather than, stricter rather than looser attendance requirements. It's so easy now to attend telephonically, and if there are other people out there who want to follow these issues. So if committee members are having trouble with attendance, I think it's the right thing to do to put somebody else in there. The other comment I wanted to make is regarding the preamble. And I urge you to think closely about your role in the chain of communication and perhaps not cede the right of pre-approval to the policy committee. It seems to me that it's the public, then the Citizens Advisory Committee, and then the policy committee. That should be the order of communication. And it shouldn't be that the public has to essentially get their ideas approved by the policy committee, and then you can take a look at them, and then you can talk to the policy committee about them. And here's an example. Some of us are flustered that this will come up in the next issue, the TIP amendment, that there are carbon reduction program monies out there that are not, there's the staff, AMATS hasn't identified a use for them. And I'm thinking if this were thrown out to the public through the Citizens Advisory Committee, I'm sure that there are many very worthwhile uses for carbon reduction. It should be, we should be able to spend every penny of carbon reduction given the crisis in that area. So urging you to think very carefully about the preamble and not require pre-approval to work on issues, especially because the staff is chronically overworked and under deadlines. So some innovation through the Citizens Advisory Committee, I think, could be beneficial to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pease. Anyone else from the public?
Nobody else has their hand raised, John.
Okay. Is Ms. Pease's comments duly noted?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that, her comments?
I think Nancy raised good points there from a community perspective. That first of all, attendance. If the committee or the council member is missing 4 out of 5 meetings throughout the year, they should be looked at very seriously as not living up to the expectations of their presence on the committee. The second one about the preamble and as to how a community member has to go through a procedure to get the various committees to start an action, approve an action, make a recommendation, whatever. It looks like it is a confusing process and not one that is straightforward. So I don't know if we're allowed to look at that. If the policy committee establishes the committee advisory committee, then can we even modify that relationship? And I don't know.
Any further discussion?
Yes, it's Mike Rayberg. I mean, look, what this boils down to is this isn't a change that's being made by us. This is a change that's being made to us. So we give our best opinions to the policy committee. I am not comfortable with ceding the ability to add topics like this because how else do things bubble up?
So just to clarify, this is not asking for pre-approval of the policy committee for things. As it works right now, everything you guys do has to go through the TAC and policy committee, regardless of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. That's how the process works. What we're trying to do here is make it to where you have items A through F, to where you don't have to go through the TAC and policy committee for those items. Anything outside of those items, you do have to go to the policy committee through. So it's giving you guys some flexibility to do things on your own without the TAC and policy committee. So kind of making it to where there's actually a point to have a CAC. So that's what adding that H in at the end is for.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay,
So going back to the preamble then, it looks to me like as written that we're looking at today. Item 1G is determined by the committee or by the policy committee or the TAC. Whereas H allows activities outside of those committees to be reviewed by the policy committee and deciding if the CAC can act. To me, those are two disparate procedures on how a community member can get action. Is that anybody else's understanding?
That's why I think there's recommending moving G and then we have H in there. So basically what would happen is if a topic came up, say you guys wanted to comment on tip criteria. With this change, tip criteria would fall under 1D. That means you guys could get together as a committee, make your recommendations and submit those recommendations to the project team for the tip criteria without having to go through the TAC and policy committee for approval.
And how is that different from what we're able to do now?
You have to go through the TAC and policy committee for approval of any comments, recommendations, questions, anything like that before it's submitted. Which becomes a real problem for the committees and staff, because now you guys have to know about it in enough time to get it submitted during the public comment period, or your comments don't get counted. So it's removing that extra step, so then you guys actually can submit something and have it part of the process.
So the only thing I can see about G, and maybe they would do this already, I don't know, but the policy committee could, or the TAC could ask us to do something that isn't on A through F. And I guess it would be to get back to them, but maybe they have the power to do that anyway.
I do.
So G is rather extraneous.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess next thing we want a motion on this, then? Is that what we're looking for?
If you guys want to act on it, yes, that would be the next step.
Okay.
So, I do have one further question. I haven't really paid attention, like if we do something and it goes to a policy committee, do they have any obligation to take it up at the next meeting? I mean, what if they're too busy and there's something time critical? And by keeping H in there, our issue gets lost.
I mean, that's happening already right now. So any item, so ignore H. If H wasn't there, the items A through G right now, if you wanted to act on anything at all, say you guys pass a resolution on something, we would have to bring that to the TAC and policy committee for their approval before we submitted that resolution. Or comments on a project. Say you want to comment on a project that's out there, all have to go through the TAC and policy committee.
So Aaron, what I'm not understanding, I guess, and I think where the confusion comes from, right now, there's not really anything in our bylaws, because these are our existing bylaws, correct?
Correct.
So there's nothing in here that says that our actions have to be approved by the TAC and the PAC in our bylaws, the way they're written out. Is that correct?
It's all based on the public participation plan, which says that all of the subcommittees are advisory to the policy committee. So that's been used as everything you guys do has to go through the TAC.
So is the public participation plan being changed in tandem with these changes to our bylaws?
We haven't started an update on that yet.
Okay, but so really, if we don't change the public participation plan, we still have to follow that process, right?
It gives us a little bit more flexibility.
Uh-huh. Right. I think I get it. All right.
Okay, is there a motion?
A motion to what, please?
Well, he's asking for a motion. Right now, there's not. All right, I'll start it just to get it started. I'll make a motion to approve the changes as presented to the bylaws. Yeah, that's the end of the motion. Let's get a second, open up to discussion, and then we can make some.
I'll second that.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eric.
All right.
I'll second that, but yeah, I need to remember.
Great, second by Mike Fester. Okay, now, I mean, at this point, let's, if we want to make some changes, that's where we can make some recommendations for changes. So, like, I would, like, Mike, if you want to amend that to say, however, we believe H should say this instead of that, or we want to get rid of G. That's where we can do that through an amendment process now.
So am I remembering that the only two I put down notes about was striking G and putting H in on the preamble and adding to 2.4.5 all meetings, including voting of the CAC.
Okay,
So those
so
are the only two that we had.
that's what I heard.
Well, we have to, I still am lobbying for, 2 meetings, not 3 for absent.
And I would say, I'd even go a step further and say 2 meetings in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of consecutive,
Yeah.
like, just you miss 2 meetings in a year, you're. And maybe if it says if any committee member or alternate fails to, because if you send an alternate for one and then you miss a second meeting, your district has only been unrepresented for 1 meeting. Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, 244 covers that.
Right. Except for, again, the question is if there's, shall not be subject, right? I get about 244. Okay. So Diana, you want to make an amendment to our motion? To move to amend our motion to add with the, because right now it's to accept the amendments or the changes to the bylaws as presented, and then you would amend to add except for the following changes. : and then 1.
Yes.
Okay, 1. What do you want to do with G and H? Or what do we want to do with G and H?
I move to remove G.
Change H to G and have outside items be A through F? Is that basically what you're saying?
Because this will be subject to a vote, I would move to remove H also and see what the will of body is. And I would move in 2.4.3.
Why don't we break it into
Oh.
2? Why don't we break it into 2, just so that, yeah, just so, because
Okay.
it sounds like, I mean, like, yeah, breaking up the whole H thing has me, kind of like, all right. I mean, we're hearing from staff that they need that to be able to forward our stuff now without the public participation plan being changed. Because public participation plan, which, is a necessary document, it's a document that outlines basically how we make comment on issues related to FWHA money. Basically states that what we do has to go through the TAC and PAC, or the PC. And what they're saying is that if we have this in here, we can abrogate that even though we haven't changed the public participation plan. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing you say, Aaron? Okay.
It seems to me that if we were to bring something from the community to our committee through G, we can get things designated by policy or TAC. To H, if somebody brings us something from a committee council, we want to bring it before this group to look at and maybe make a resolution, then we would have to, first of all, give that to the policy committee to review and approve before we could even act on it.
No,
That's not true.
That is not what that's saying. You can act on it. It's just whatever you act on would have to go to the TAC and policy committee for final approval.
After we've acted.
It means we're not entitled to send letters. Really, I mean, that's the bottom line here, right?
Right, which right now we're not either.
It's
So
not-
I think, I mean, what I'm hearing is it's a clarification.
Or make resolutions, right?
That's really the meat of what we're being asked to
Or make
comment.
resolutions.
Yes.
Sending letters,
Yeah.
is one thing, make resolutions.
Yes, I agree. Right.
Uh,
And I guess, the thing about G is it just basically says anything that's not A through F, if we or the policy committee or the technical advisory committee want to act on something, then we can do that still. So,
I'm still missing the part where the community comes to us as a community advisory committee and says this is what we'd like to consider.
well, the unfortunate thing is, just by the way we run, if no one can show up at a committee and ask us to take action, period, anyway,
Right, but if they bring it to a member or a community council
right.
without going through TAC or policy, and we say we'd like to.
We can do
something
that.
about
We can do
we
that.
Do that,
Yeah, we can do that. And then it's subject to review after we take action.
okay.
That's what I'm reading.
Yes, that is correct.
We can make a resolution, but it has to go through with the policy committee. Right? I want to make sure the public involvement is not stricken from this.
Mhm.
I'd like to make a request. If we're making recommendations to how we're gonna change our bylaws, I'd like to strike 253, which tells us that we have to vote on.
Yeah, that was something we were
I
gonna
don't know
actually
if it's
pick up
in
and
this,
change.
if it's just written differently.
Yeah, we were talking
That's
about.
the intent.
that As well, but yeah, so right now we're dealing with an amendment to change, to deal with,
Sorry,
it's okay, but right now we're dealing with an amendment to change 2.4 not 2.4, sorry. The preamble, 1 point,
Preamble.
there we go, basically 1 G and H. And the motion is to get rid of G and change H3 items A through F.
So really quickly, I know we're having a discussion on this, but we spent about an hour on the
Yeah.
bylaws and we have pretty important items to discuss.
Absolutely.
I would recommend maybe we do a special meeting for this and sit down and talk through it some more, because it sounds like there's some concerns. And I don't want to rush this and have everyone feel uncomfortable and stuff is being missed.
All right, I'll move to table this until a meeting that we designate, when Christine sends out a doodle poll.
So is there any, urgency that we couldn't just do it at the second quarter meeting, or, yeah, second quarter meeting?
I don't think there's an urgency to have anything. I was just putting it out there. Do a special meeting or a regular meeting, it's up to you guys, but there's nothing earth shattering. It must be done now.
Thanks, Aaron.
How
So,
about if
This
I move the table this until the second quarter meeting?
okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
Steve Horn, second.
Okay, which one are you seconding, Mike's or mine? Say second. Mike.
Mike's, delay it till the spring meeting.
Any further discussion? All those approving, or any opposed to any of those opposed?
Can I ask one quick question? So right now, I mean, last year I submitted a resume for someone as an alternate. So if I needed, could I have her, without this bylaw change, could she attend for me? I never got confirmation that the policy committee approved her or anything. It just kind of dropped off into the ether. So,
That was part of us wanting to clarify that too, because we were like, we think you can just do that now. We wanted to spell that out here because that item has been pushed off their agendas for so many months because they've been busy. And we just
yeah, okay.
wanted you to be able to have an alternative.
Thanks.
Motion passed then?
Yeah, John, did that pass? I didn't hear any opposition. Fair from online.
Austin.
We lost John?
I don't see him
I'll
on.
make a motion to, assign a new chair until John gets online.
Can we do that?
Yeah, our bylaws say we can appoint ourselves a
Do
chair.
we have a quorum of
Oh,
those?
Four of us, well, we have, Steve on
Warren's
live
here,
too.
But Bob
Yeah,
Prince,
Steve seconds your motion.
yeah, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We need
5.
6.
We need 6. Okay.
And I believe you have 2 people online.
We
Yeah.
have 2, okay.
Jim
Bob.
Westbury.
Oh, Jim's still there.
Jim's there?
His left, but Jim.
Super, okay, I guess I should make a motion to who, so anyone want to run this meeting until John shows back up?
So
Alright.
Steve Horn, motion to assign you. Yeah, I keep wanting to say AJ, AJ,
SJ, first letter's S.
SJ. Okay, I put forth a motion to have SJ serve as chair for the remainder of the meeting.
Anyone opposed to that? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on through the agenda till John gets back. So we're on to the 2023 tip. Once I had a chance to look at it, Aaron, is there anything you want to tell us about this before we dive into it or have questions?
Hopefully you'll all have a chance to look through it. There's some pretty big changes in here, some new projects that are being added, some new funding, the carbon reduction funding is being added in here. I'm sure we'll get to some of the items that are in here, but some things that we're really excited about. Moving forward on the Devon Trail and the Fish Creek Trail connections. Some new plans. We have the AC Street corridor plan, the AMAX climate action plan, added in here, and then the human services transportation plan. That's a transit required one, so that's why it's in here. And then we have some new transit related projects, seniors and youth ride free, some micro transit, and then a Muldoon Transit Hub starting the mixed use development center for that. So very excited for those.
Can you say what microtransit is exactly?
It's basically, think of it as like a shuttle service. I think the intent is to do.
Yeah, helped with first and last mile.
Got it. Okay. That's the little buses that pick people up and drop them off.
Similar to
You might have, you have at a bus stop.
So this is kind of like I think a test case for it, starting in some select location, so. And then the rest are updates to the other tables based on information from Department of Transportation. Go ahead, thank you.
Are there any questions from commissioners or comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
This is Mike. I just had a definition question. When it talks about channelization, what's that? If it can be done in 2 sentences.
Unfortunately, that's DOT specific. I don't know if anyone here from help answer that. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Julia Hanson, I'm in the highway design section. And context, I guess, are you referring to Tudor Road, Baxter Road?
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, channelization, in a broader case, channelization means how do we guide cars to stay in their lane? Sometimes it means striping something. That project, it means putting in a median island to limit left turns.
Okay, and that was from Baxter through around the curve?
Baxter Road to Patterson Street.
Okay,
It's an HSIP project.
Yeah.
We're trying to solve a high collision.
You're basically doing a median kind of like what's at Tudor around like Otis in that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, there's no turns in there and that's in my district and that makes sense. All right, thanks.
I did have a question about the marketing for transit. Oh, where'd that one go?
Table 5.
Yeah, sorry. I'm better with paper. Right, so 1.5 million a year for marketing for the Anchorage ride sharing stuff.
It's ride sharing is a portion of it,
Okay,
is the biggest portion, and then they do a small portion of it for the transit marketing.
okay, so it's ride sharing / transit
Yeah.
marketing,
Yeah.
not marketing, ride sharing and transit. Okay, that's all. I just wasn't clear on that. Other questions from commissioners?
I did one, and it's related to the fact that, right now, we're not using up all of our carbon reduction program, revenues. And, I'm wondering, about, so Fish Creek Trail connection, there's currently listed as 3,700, 3,700,000 in 2025 under the CRP, and 6.745 million for the state block grant. So would it be possible, is there any restriction on why we couldn't use more of the leftover CRP funding on the Fish Creek Trail and reduce the state block grant amount funded under the budget so that we could have state block grant money freed up for things that were not so prescriptive as what you could use the carbon reduction plan funds for?
We could, but we don't have any other use for this state block grant funding. So if we free it up, it would be unused and we have to find a use for it. And at this point, we don't have a use for that year.
But if the public found a use for it, I mean, that is a way to free up money to make our dollars go further.
Doesn't make the dollars go further, the dollars are the same regardless. It would just free up STPG funding.
Yeah, so we could move up projects or,
No. Just because you free up the money doesn't mean projects move up. They're based on schedules and deadlines. So what you see here are the current schedule and deadline for all these projects.
so you're saying there is no way to use $3.7 million that would be given to us. Because, and that's, can't think of a way to use it.
So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not really just AMAX. It's also DOT. Do they have capacity for new projects, for moving projects up, et cetera? And the answer is no, they do not have capacity for that. And since, yes, we could look for other things for SDG funding and offset of carbon reduction, but at this point, even that doesn't have capacity to start new projects. The municipality of Bainbridge is not allowed to start new federal projects. It's all DOT. There's a lot of limits on what we can and can't do. But you are more than welcome to make recommendations for new projects.
To do that like right now when we're
Yep.
considering the tip, super.
Yep.
Um,
Comment period closed 13th, so.
Aaron, I had a question too about, on table 7, there's, the Gamble Street utility pole removal and increased lighting. Something I noticed on Tudor Road when they undergrounded electrical poles, they left the poles up. ACS and GCI didn't concurrently underground their services. And I'm wondering, is there like, I guess, if we don't get rid of all the utilities on Gamble Street when we're undergrounding, we're not really accomplishing anything. And I'm just wondering kind of like how we ensure that happens in the process.
I will attempt to answer that.
Okay.
You're right, that is exactly what we want to do, is get everything underground at the same time. The problem is that some of the utility companies, all the utility companies are having the same problems with staffing that pretty much everybody's having right now. We have a lot of projects that they need to do some work on. They also have their own projects to do, and of course, they're also maintaining their whole system. So it's, I don't know exactly what happened in the project you're talking about, where the utility poles didn't go down at the same time, but we're hearing about this almost every single week is the trouble we're having getting utility companies actually mobilized out in the field, actually working on the project. It's just everybody is working right now.
Are there other comments from commissioners? Do we have comments from the public? Hearing none. Oh, is there? Okay, sorry, Christie.
Nancy Pease has her hand up.
Awesome, Nancy.
Yes, thank you again for the initiative you just showed in trying to use the CRP funds that would otherwise be left on the table. And I hope you'll keep working with Aaron to help you get to yes on how to spend those. And I'm going to reverse the order of my comments here and say one of the comments that I saw and had a little objection to was spending carbon reduction funds to supplement state block grant funds for the relocation of the Campbell Creek Science Center driveway. This budget proposes to put 1.1 or 1.2 million of carbon reduction funds into that. The rest is STB. Why not make that all STB and move the carbon reduction funds out of that project into some of the non-motorized projects and then proceed along that same avenue as I think it was Diana was suggesting, put carbon reduction program funds into some of those trails so that money could go back into the repair program. So please don't give up on moving some of that money around so that all of the CRP funding can be used. You'll be doing Anchorage a $2.6 million service if you can do that. Then getting back to my main comments, number one, the double set of charts showing previous and revised spending, that's hard for the public to understand. And I hope you'll make the community-friendly recommendation that AMATs print these charts with old and new expenditures side by side in the same data cell. Small, but very important for the public, the lay public. On the topic of repairs, I think you should ask about what is going to go unrepaired. We've just seen with our snow apocalypse that the city wants, residents want maintenance and good repair, and that goes for pavement repair as well. And both these budgets transfer big chunks of money out of the repair program and into new projects. And with non-motorized especially, it's radical. Over 65% of the repair budget in 2023 is going to be moved into new projects, and 50% of the repairs in 2024 and 40% of the repairs in 2025. As a representative of the community, I think, I think, you know, again, repairs are really important. And supposedly we have an MTP that commits to keeping things in good repair. And yet AMATS has adopted the DOT standard for good repair, which is only 15% of our non-highway roads will be in good repair, and only, or minimum of 20% of our freeways in good repair. So I'm asking this Citizens Advisory Committee to look more closely at what will not be repaired if this TIP amendment takes place. What will the impacts be? And finally, on the issue of non-motorized easements, I would hope you would question and perhaps correct the statement that the non-motorized mapping under PLN 00019 is quote unquote done. We've sent, my community council has sent 6 or 7 examples showing how the mapping available by the municipality continues to be really incomplete and not compiled into a database that the public can look at and say, oh, look, there are easements and rights of way. We can complete our non-motorized network without purchases of rights of way.
Thank you, Nancy.
So,
Staff just reminded me that we only get allowed 3 minutes for public comment, so thank you, and we take that, we take your comments very seriously. Were there other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay. How do commissioners wish to proceed?
I have one more question if we can.
Sure.
I meant to bring this up before and I just forgot about. Table 2, looking at the Randall Creek Road, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one down. Just for clarification, that when something is in orange, and then when there's orange and struck out, Where are we with respect to that? I'm looking particularly the last sentence, project will includes non-motorized improvements, where possible, then orange, then it's crossed out.
So the cross out is where we're currently at. So where possible was removed. It was originally added, then the
Okay.
policy committee removed it,
Okay,
but we still wanted to show at some point it had been added, but not officially.
so that's just a historical,
So people can see that we're
Okay.
making changes, you know, between
Okay.
what staff recommended and what the policy committee put out. So nothing's lost in the
all right.
process.
So they are now calling that instead of reconstruction, rehabilitation is the correct
Correct.
term for that. Thank you so
Correct.
much. I appreciate that.
So Aaron, moving papers back and forth, the pavement, replacement program that Nancy was referring to, with that, you know, is pavement replacement in the same category as, construction that there's just no capacity at all to complete?
Yes.
In
the
other
number-
words, that STVG money couldn't be used for pavement replacement if it was switched out of the Fish Creek project.
STBG can be used for pavement replacement, but the numbers that you see in the tip right there are what DOT can expect to deliver. So adding more money wouldn't actually do anything.
If it was budgeted and not used, then it would roll over.
No, if it's budgeted and not used, it would go away.
It would be deobligated.
It wouldn't even be deobligated. It would never have been obligated in the first standpoint. So it'd go back to the state to use wherever they deem necessary.
But in the long run, then at least Alaska would use it. If not Anchorage.
I mean, it's not guaranteed because if the state can't use it, then August redistribution hits and then it can go to other states. But then if AMATS is not using their funding, the question is, does AMATS need to continue receiving the same amount of funding they have been?
So do any commissioners feel confident or passionate enough to make a motion to accept, amend, make suggestions, anything else like that to the tip amendments that have been presented to us? Or should we move on through the agenda? Okay, hearing none, what's that?
Can we just make advisory comments without being at a certain exact tip?
Well,
We could-
advisory, if we're gonna make advisory comments as a commission, then I'd go through, but we'd make a motion to do so. Otherwise, we're just making comments individually.
At right now? I mean,
I
I
don't
would
know, like,
like
if we make comments right now, are they brought into the record for the tip? Yeah, you do that through the
I
tip website.
No,
you
I
wanna
mean,
make
as a
comments.
group, like,
Right.
could we say, we would like AMATS to do everything possible to, try to use the entire carbon reduction program revenue. We think that it is beneficial to, our municipality, our MPL.
Sure. So you wanna make
I
a
would
motion,
like-
you wanna
I'd
make a
like
motion to make that
motion
comment?
To make that
Okay,
comment.
Mike, seconds. Okay, open for discussion? Okay, any comment from commissioners? All right, any
It's
comment?
reasonable to prefer his comment.
What's that?
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, any comment from the public?
Need to ask for comments on what you've already done.
Okay.
Public comment.
Okay,
You're
we're
not
done.
to-
Okay, so, yeah, I guess hearing no other comment or discussion, is there any opposition to submitting that comment or to the motion?
State the comment.
Okay, so the motion is to submit a comment that,
That, AMATS make every effort to use the entire, CRP revenue within their program, so that we use all the funds, such as looking for projects that can use carbon reduction program monies and transfer STBG block grant monies from that project, such as Fish Creek, project, into projects that could use potentially only STBG monies.
Did you get that, Aaron?
I'll read it back just to make sure.
Okay.
That AMATs make every effort to use the entire CRP revenue within their program, such as looking for projects. Right, for projects that can use CRP and transfer STB from that project, such as Fish Creek Trail rehabilitation into projects that can use only STBG money.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion as, oh, go ahead.
Clarification, do we need to include in that they not only plan to use that, but also plan to ask DOT to go along with that? Or is that assumed?
I'd be-
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're asking for something to be reprogrammed, so.
Right.
Okay, any opposition to the motion as presented? Hearing none, motion passes. Is there any other action that we want to take on the tip amendments? Okay, hearing none, letter to the legislature on winter maintenance.
Nope, sorry. That's it.
Real quick, sorry if you don't mind, Taylor and Kelly, how long are you guys gonna want for your presentation? 10 minutes and then another 10 for questions? Okay. Thank you. All right.
I was the one that wrote the letter. Well, let's see, what do you have to do? I make a motion to, pass approval on this letter
Okay, or you make a motion to submit this letter
to our legislature.
to our
You gotta,
legislature.
before you do that, you have to have a discussion, you have to do the public,
Okay.
ask the public for their
All right.
comment. And then you-
Well, I'm
So
just
first,
putting
the
it
order-
on the
Got it.
table.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so the order of business that's being laid on the table is a memorandum.
Questions, why are we not including all the state legislatures? in the
Because I
ordinance?
want you to tell me who they are.
Oh,
You
I
need to get the rest
think I
from
know.
each AMAT
know
CAC member.
someone, Craig Johnson, but I don't know anybody else in my area.
Sure.
Is there a way we can look that up and just make sure we include all those as part of our edit to this?
Right.
I found mine, on the state website. You just look at your district and it'll tell you who they are.
Right, so I know mine, but I'm only talking for District 6, so. So like that, Kathy Geese and Craig Johnson.
For my district, it would be Cliff Grove. And my wife, Donna Mears,
License or condolences, I don't know which.
to be transparent, I guess. If we're just putting her name on a letter.
We're not asking you to sign it.
And Forrest Dunbar, but that's already on there.
And the first district has, oh, you've got Wiki, Cliff Grove, Fields.
And that can be something we can look up
Yeah.
and add in.
So this is Steve Horn. Is that something that the support staff can look up just to make sure we have everybody?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thanks for writing the letter. I think it's appropriate. And I guess with the bylaws change that hasn't happened yet, I guess what would happen, we'd approve this and then it gets sent to the technical committee and the policy committee before being forwarded?
that happened regardless of the bylaw
Right.
change.
Okay, because this is outside the scope.
This is a letter to the legislature.
Got it.
It's not something the CAC, BPAC, or FAC can send directly on that.
Okay, super. All right, is there any other discussion from commissioners? Is there any discussion from the public?
This is John Scudder. I thank you. I had to transfer over the phone call. I need to sign off.
Okay, John, do we still have a quorum if we don't have John? Okay. Great, John, thanks, and, appreciate you coming back on and letting us know what's going on.
Yes.
Any other comments from the public? Hearing none, I guess we'd take a motion to, I would entertain a motion to accept this. Or, yeah, I would entertain a motion to submit the letter. So,
I move we submit the letter with, additions to the correct state legislatures.
I'll second that.
any discussion? I would actually move to amend that we add the governor's office and commissioner of DOT. Just because. If yeah, second for that. Great. Was that a second, Mike? Okay, so Mike seconds. Is there any opposition to amending to add the governor and the commissioner of DOT? Hearing none. Okay, any discussion on the motion to approve this letter?
I guess maybe we could, put the South Central DOT guy,
Director? Yeah.
Wolfgang.
Sure. That's good, that's good. So is that another? Consider that another amendment. So Diana moved to amend it to add Wolfgang. Mike, are you seconding?
You okay with that? Yes.
Mike seconds. Is there any opposition to that addition, to that amendment? Hearing none. Okay, we're back on the main motion. Is there any more discussion on this motion? Hearing none. Is there any opposition to the motion to submit this letter? Okay, hearing none. It's done. Thank you, Diana. All right, next up is resolution on the Seward Glen Pell. I would move that we postpone discussion of this resolution until we get a briefing from the project team, which is here right now. Can I get a second for that? Okay, Mike seconds. Is there any opposition to postponing our discussion of our consideration of this resolution? Okay, hearing none. Yeah. Oh, super. Hey, Matt, do you want to take over chairing?
Well, Matt,
That's all good.
Was there presentation printed out?
What's that?
Was there presentation printed
Their
out?
presentation? No, they just have it. You have to take shots if there's anything.
About our PO. Hi, my name is Kelly Summers. I'm the project manager with the State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities. Thanks for having us here today to give you an update on the Seward to Glen Mobility Planning Environmental Linkage Study. With me today to give you a presentation, I have a couple members of our consultant team from HDR. I have Lori Cummings, Senior Planner at HDR, and Taylor Horn. He is our Deputy PM for HDR. So thanks, guys. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Kelly. And thanks for inviting us to give you an update on the project. We've got a brief briefing on where we are and what's changed recently. So we'll go through the long and short is that there are several new documents, updated documents that are posted on the project website right now, and more coming quite soon. So we're going to quickly go through the updates that are posted on the website here, including the purpose and needs statement, recommended alternative selection criteria memo, the system performance memo, and the project schedule itself. These updates are mainly in response to comments received from the public and agencies during the second public meeting that occurred on this project in the end of May 25th, 2022. So on the screen right now, what we've done is essentially tried to call out kind of the main changes that happened between that first proposed document and what we've changed in response. I encourage folks to please go to the website so you can see the differences yourself. I'm not going to read the whole new purpose and need, but basically we heard back from the public and added sections in that purpose and need statement. It's really like a whole chapter that will go into the eventual PEL document. But talking about how there's relationship to the adopted land use plans in the purpose statement, and specifying that the people travel on foot, bicycle, and buses are included in the purpose of the project. And also added the statement in to part of the purpose is to improve neighborhood connections, quality of life, and accommodate the adopted plans. Also, there's enhanced information about non-motorized travel in the area. We added information on the social conditions in the study area based on what we heard from the public. And also added statements into the purpose and need chapter about statements from the adopted neighborhood plans. Folks were saying, hey, we need to recognize what neighborhood plans and how they interact with the project. I'll hand the next off to Lori.
Thanks, Taylor. So we also revised our alternative selection criteria based on the public comments that we received, at the public meeting and subsequent to that through our public comment period. We did keep our two-step screening process, but we did make changes to the evaluation criteria based on what we heard. We provided an additional description of those steps, so it provides more clarity about how we're going to do the screening process. We added additional information. We added a specific measure about pedestrian mobility and accessibility. We also added a specific bicycle mobility and accessibility measure. We also added information about livability, and livability measure refined to include consistency with additional local plans. We had identified a small number of plans, and we've expanded that to include the plans that were recommended by the public. We also added additional livability measures that people said they were concerned about, including right-of-way acquisition, non-motorized amenities, and changes in truck traffic. And we also added a rough order of magnitude cost. And then another document that we updated was the system performance memo, and that provides a lot of the background information about where the purpose and need statement, and how that was developed. We condensed the planning history section to improve the readability of the document. We included information about cost from the 2040 MTP about the Seward Highway and Glen connection. We revised the traffic mobility section to improve clarity to make it easier to read. We also added information about social equity. That was enhanced to include neighborhood plans and additional demographic information. The freight component of the document was enhanced to include additional information. And we also added additional information about non-motorized travel in the area. And all three of those documents are now published on our website. I'm going to turn it over to Taylor.
So where are we right now in this process? This updated project schedule is posted on the website, also the same graphic here. We've moved from phase 3, which was purpose and need and developing the evaluation criteria, into phase 4, which is develop and screen the alternatives. So the first part of that is developing the alternatives. So using input we received over the past 2 public meetings, our teams got some draft alternatives, ways to meet the needs, fixes to meet those needs. And so we'll do some engineering, reach out to certain folks in the community to get their input on making sure that we're taking the appropriate or proposing appropriate fixes to identify the alternatives. And then basically do some kind of rough engineering to make sure, we're talking about kind of fat crayon lines on a map, have about 5 alternatives, and then run those through those 2 steps of screening to see which ones rise to the top using those screening criteria. So time-wise, that's happening this winter into the spring of 2023. We're going to have another round of advisory committee meetings for this project, and also another public meeting that basically presents those results. Moving into the summer, where there should be perhaps some alternatives that rise to the top that will then get refined into the future. And I presume we'll be back to give you all updates about that. Also plugging the Anchorage Transportation Fair happening this week on Thursday. We will have a table there and we would be happy if you come by and we'll be available to chat during that. That's at the Alaska Airlines Center. Maybe in the auxiliary gym, maybe in the hallway. We'll have a booth somewhere. And as always, we have this phone number goes to a system that as a message box that the entire project team gets a message from it. So if someone doesn't pick up, you just leave a message and we'll get back to you. Same with the email address. And thank you.
Okay. Do we have questions from the commissioners? Yeah, questions? So I see that there is on the website, you've got listed that a table with public comments and responses is coming soon. When can we expect that to come out?
Weeks, not months.
Weeks, not months?
We're working on that.
Okay, yeah, just because I know you got over 500 comments on the draft documents that you're now presenting, and I'm assuming the public is gonna want to track how their comments got incorporated into the documents that you're using. And then, so the next step is development of alternatives. Is that what happens?
That's where we are right now.
Okay, so you're in the alternative development stage. How much input from the public have you used in developing that? And are you taking proposals from the public, or do you kind of got everything that you need already to develop alternatives?
So we have taken what we heard from the public in these past two public periods and kind of put them into buckets, like, for example, improve the connection between Chester Creek and to the Ship Creek or something like that. Or think about using a design from the Fairview plan as one of the alternatives, a Gamble Main Street sort of concept. And we clubbed them together and have tracked how public input is going into these alternatives, as in we'll be able to show, hey, we have, generally people recommended this. That's why we added this line to this map. To address your question, the phone lines are always open, the email addresses are always open, and we are in the process of taking, we'll take input and, likely we probably got the idea, but.
Right. And then another question, when you're talking about screening criteria, you discussed livability. Do you have documentation of kind of like how you're defining livability and what that means as far as how you use it as a metric?
I think we use that as a category of a one-word summation of those criteria.
Okay.
We put those criteria in there to basically line up with kind of the main needs that need to be met. And so that livability falls under the sort of social needs.
Access, land use planning. Got it. I see it now.
Yeah, some of the specific measures that we're looking at under livability include consistency with various plans, reduction in study area, vehicle miles traveled, impact to parks and historic properties, right-of-way acreage of various land uses, number of dwelling units, number of businesses, including from low-income or minority areas, acres of roadway pavement fronting existing residential development, acres of green space provided, miles of new bikeway, miles of upgraded sidewalk and trail, changes in truck traffic.
We tried to kind of track it to the need categories. Those are the ones that are not vehicle oriented, direct or traffic movement, vehicle traffic.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Do we need to take questions from the public, or does that normally happen at these meetings for a presentation or information item? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, getting back to our agenda, we had 5E, resolution on the Seward Glen Pell. I will say I put this on the table before any of these documents were made public. I'm not saying that the fact that this resolution exists has anything to do with the fact that we have some public documents. I mean, I think there's two parts really to the resolution that I've put forward. If you want to pull that up. The first half really has to do with process and just, the fact that, I mean, the public submit comments in June, in July. And we just got these documents released this week and we're gonna be getting, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, they said, the response, table, which, I mean, is a pretty critical part of any public review process. So I don't know what we would want to do with that part of this resolution. The second part is comments on the travel demand report, which is a document that they put out about a month ago. And those are just kind of, I mean, those are comments that I and other people in the Fairview community have developed. And I don't know if we want to take these on as items to submit for comment for the travel demand report. So, any thoughts from Commissioner?
I'm reading it. I've forgotten what I read the other day.
Yeah.
We discuss it or?
No, first, I guess, is I understand the way our order works is something's laid on the table, which is this. And then there's discussion from commissioners, then there's discussion from the public, and then there's action. So is that correct? Okay. I mean, go ahead.
Well, okay, so we just got a little update from these guys.
Right.
And so the letter had 3 requests, right? And then it had a list of the comments on the transportation model.
Right.
Right. Yes, the easiest question for me is, where do you think we are with the 3 requests with the updated documents that are not the transportation plan? You know what I'm trying to say? I mean,
yeah,
the transportation model was reviewed in detail on the letter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So, yeah, the first, as far as my be it resolved, I mean, the first one, we haven't had those documents released, we haven't had the comments released yet, so I think that's appropriate to still ask for. Kind of the second be it resolved. I'll be honest, I kind of wasn't sure what we wanted to happen if we don't get these documents. I think asking that the project be stopped is kind of unreasonable. I think more appropriate would be, if we could understand maybe from staff where the holdups have been, so that we know what we should be asking for. I mean, like, I don't know if the contractor needs an increased scope, if Kelly, if you need more resources, or where the kind of the holdup was over the summer and getting these documents to this point. Because I feel like it took advancing to the level where we had to put a resolution in front of the CAC of AMATs before we got a response to things that really should have been made public 2 months ago. And so, like, I'd like to know where that breakdown was so that we know what we should be advocating for to help you do your job better. I think putting on hold is the wrong thing for us to ask for. I think asking for more resources to be devoted to the project is probably more appropriate. But like I said, I'd like to hear from staff on that. And then the third, advocating that this Pell process be a priority. Yeah, I think that's still appropriate as well, so. And then, there's a number of comments that, I was hoping the CAC would be up for adopting to the travel demand model. Are there other comments from commissioners?
Well, one question I had was, as we look at the existing Seward Highway, Glen Highway path through town, if that becomes a higher priority than it has been in the past, it will deprioritize literally crosstown traffic.
Sure.
And I'm thinking in terms of an emergency, like something happening at the airport, an earthquake, something like that, where a lot of traffic has to get back and forth to the medical facilities, which are all grouped in the same part of town, unfortunately. How could that be overridden,
Well,
or if that's been considered?
well, and you also, I mean, you mentioned the airport and the UMed district,
Mhm.
which, aren't connected either, I mean.
Exactly, so I'm saying, but
Yeah.
if a lot of traffic had to be going back and forth,
Mhm.
would this project override that prioritization?
Oh,
And I don't remember seeing anything about it yet, but I haven't specifically looked for it.
Well, one thing that I noticed in this TIP amendment was currently the Tudor Road exchange isn't even projected to start until after 2026. And after that is the 36.
well,
And then after that is, I mean, unless orders and
And-
priorities change.
And I'm also saying it's, the Pell process is, I guess I would argue, number one, I don't think that I think DOT can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Hmm.
We're not talking about prioritizing the Seward Glen connection as much as we're saying prioritizing this Pell process.
Mhm.
I mean, the UMed process is ongoing, airport connection is ongoing as well.
Right.
I'm just saying there's a big gap that has happened in this process that AMATS has already budgeted $5 million for it.
Mhm.
I don't know what the contract is, but I think it's 1.5. That's just guessing wildly. I haven't seen the budget, I haven't seen the contract, I haven't seen the scope of work. So I don't really know how it sits as a priority. And maybe it'd be worth for us to ask for in this resolution.
Well, as I said, I'm wondering about how that's even considered. And you look back a few years when the major road from the north and the major road from the south both got hit by a truck with their appendages up too high, and that severely impacted travel, and took a while to get that improved, and people were just as frantic as they are now about snow removal. So I wonder, as we look at the future of Anchorage as a municipality and as a part of this Seward Glen corridor, if you want to call it that, are we keeping the prioritization higher for the Seward to Glen than it would be for getting around town? Whether as funding for this, as a process, or whatever. So I can put that as a comment on your website, but I'm just wondering, more recent events like the earthquake, of course, we were pretty lucky, to be honest, with our transportation during the earthquake, I think. But as I look at other impacts to the Anchorage area affecting this plan, I just wonder how that's being considered.
Are there other comments from the commissioners? Anyone online? Matt and John are online still, or no, Matt and Steve?
And Jim and Tessa.
Oh, Jim's there too. Okay.
I can
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mike Rayberg. So for the letter, if we were to move forward with some of it, if we consider it in two parts, the requests, and then the other part is about the modeling report. I mean, I'd be willing to support points 1 and 3 on the requests that were made, to, release public responses on the draft, which we hear is coming. So it's fine for us to just concur and say that we'd like to see that happen too.
Sure.
And ask for the Pell to be a priority, I think is reasonable. I'm not totally sold on number 2, which is the pause thing.
Right.
And I don't know the internal operations of how these things go and what a pause does. for us.
Yeah,
But I'd be willing to support putting those 2 points out. I also think we have to look at the modeling report comments in more detail.
Are there comments from the public? Do you guys want to answer any of our questions?
It looks like you actually have somebody from Matt Coaching.
Oh, we do. Great. Matt, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, point of information right there is this is an actionable item. So if we are going to take action on it, doesn't someone need to present this as a motion and it's seconded? And then, because I'm hearing different items like, oh, I'll support this or I'll support that. I think we need to be very.
Matt, what I was told in the absence of a chair is the way we run this is we lay something on the table, there's discussion, there's comments from the public, and then there's a motion on it. So we haven't gotten to the motion part yet, as I understand it.
We're just open discussing the document that was provided pre-hand. Okay, nope, that sounds fair.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Anyway, any of you up for answering kind of the question that I had about what we could advocate for that would help kind of this thing move along? Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So the wording right there says the CAC opposes any further steps in the PAL.
Well, we can, let's put it on, let's have a motion to move this forward, and then we can, and then we can amend it.
Okay.
That's how
So
it
what
works.
you're on now is deciding, do we table it, do we amend it, do we?
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution as presented, and then we'll move to amend it.
I make the motion.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan.
Or else second.
All right, so Mike seconds. So the motion on the floor is basically, it's open for discussion now. At this point, we could decide, do we want to amend it, amend individual parts? Do we want to break it into two sections? Which we could do that as well, as I understand, right? I mean,
You have about 6 minutes left of the meeting,
right. So
unless you want to extend it.
yeah, for the sake of moving things and not extending the meeting, because I hate extending meetings, why don't we, I'd entertain a motion to bifurcate the resolution into two parts. We can take it on the first part, and then we could maybe table the second part to a second meeting, special meeting, something like that, if we want to make comment on the travel demand report. How long are you accepting comment on the travel demand report?
I don't think there's actually a public comment period per se on it, but like I said before, so.
Yeah, super. So if that makes sense to people, I'd entertain a motion to do that. So there'd be a motion to bifurcate the resolution at the third, after the third be it resolved. And then further, we can amend that motion to get rid of the second be it resolved there. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you making that motion, Mike?
Sorry. For the purpose of attacking this, giving good consideration, yeah, I'll move to bifurcate, splitting before we start talking about the travel demand modeling project. Which is done.
Great, thank you, Mike. Do we have a second?
So let me make sure I understand, you're dividing where?
We would cut it off, second page after that, for between the two be it resolved on that second page. So we bifurcate right there.
Okay.
So that's the first motion.
And the, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought I understood that, but I want to make sure.
Are you second? Did I get it? Was there a second online? Did I miss that?
Steve Horn, seconds.
Great, thank you. I'll take that. Thanks, Steve. Okay, any discussion on that? Any opposition to bifurcating? Okay, hearing none. So we will consider the top half first, which we're in the middle of right now. So if you want to make a motion to amend to delete the second be it resolved, the second be it resolved.
All right, the sentence, I'd make a motion to omit the sentence.
See if further.
CAC opposes further steps in the PEL until public comments, et cetera. I'd move for amending by pulling that out.
Okay, perfect. And Mike Fenster seconds. Is there any opposition to deleting that portion of the be it resolved? Hearing none, that amendment passes. Is there any other discussion of the resolution as presented? Okay,
I guess I'd ask my fellow commissioners, are we comfortable with all the whereas language preceding the requests?
This is Steve Horn. I'm comfortable with that, yeah.
I guess I'm kind of agnostic on it. I can take it or leave it.
Yeah, I've learned the whereas is to kind of educate people that don't understand the process on the process, so. Yeah.
Do you need to take off the one that says that DOT hasn't released comments and responses?
Well, they haven't yet.
Oh, okay, that,
Yeah.
they just.
Right.
Next part,
Great. Is there any other discussion of the motion in front of us? Hearing none, is there an opposition to
Question.
adopting? Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Will you read out the therefores?
Sure. On the therefores, the first is therefore be it resolved, the CAC or AMAT to request the immediate release of all public comments and responses by AKDOTPF on draft documents released in the Seward Glen Pell process. And then be it further resolved, the CAC advocates for the Pell process to become a priority within AKDOTPF, as this winter has shown the continued dangers of failing to address issues along the Seward Glen corridor present. And that would be it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Is there any opposition to accepting the motion as amended? Okay, hearing none, that passes. And I guess, let's have a motion to table the second half.
Make a motion to table.
Okay, and table till
Second.
when? How do you want to, do we want to table it until, well, I think next meeting is going to be too late to submit comment on the travel demand report. Do we want to do a special meeting on this?
If we do, I would not want it to be before. Like, if it would be late February, would be okay. It's been slammed on.
All right,
Or I could get my alternate to.
yeah. Okay. What do we do? Okay, so the motion is,
Doodle poll.
yeah, the motion is to table it. We'll do a doodle poll and see where we want to meet.
Yeah, this is Steve Horn. Nothing to really change what we're doing here. I was just thinking, all these comments, I mean, unless we wanted to add to them, and that's what the special meeting would be about, or change them up a little bit. I think they're comments that should be sent and get answers to them. One final note for me, I'm going to have some spinal fusion surgery on January 27th. So we'll see. I mean, I think I'll only be out of commission for a little bit, but we'll see what your doodle poll has.
And real quick, let's do a motion to extend 3 minutes just to get this out of the way. Can we get that?
Move to extend.
Great, thank you, Matt. Second by Mike. Is there any opposition? Hearing none. Yeah, so the question is, right now there's a motion to table the comment portion of this. Do we want to just approve it as sits, or, I mean, I think it's going to take some deliberation, quite honestly. So, all right, so we'll do doodle poll if everybody's okay with that. Is there any opposition to tabling? Hearing none. That's it. And then we have general information committee comments and public comments in the next 3 minutes. So.
Well, we had a destination UMed presentation.
Oh, that was supposed to happen today too?
Yeah, but I don't think we'll have enough.
Oh, shoot. I'm so
I
sorry.
can do that in 30 seconds.
Can you? All right, let's hear it. I'm so sorry.
That's right. John Cecil, AMATS, and I'm a project manager for the Destination UMed project. There's been, since I last spoke to you in November, there's been a lot of work ongoing with that. And I encourage you to take a look at our project webpage. You'll find a travel survey that was completed. We got a lot of public responses on. And there is also a best TDM, Transportation Demand Management best practices document as well. So you'll find those on the webpage. In the meantime, we're getting ready to gear up for a virtual meeting with the advisory committee in March, and also a public on-site meeting here in April. And there will be additional documents added to the webpage relating to those, specifically an implementation plan and strategies relating to the actual implementation of TDM and UMed.
That's
that'll be-
in March 8th.
You're gonna be at the transportation fair as well?
Yes, I am. So I can talk to you at that opportunity. Be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I apologize, everybody. We spent so much time talking bylaws this morning, or the start of the meeting. Right. Any other committee comments, public comments? And the last thing on our agenda?
Just a quick one.
Go ahead, Matt.
I just wanted to sincerely apologize to everyone. I thought we had a meeting today. I looked at my calendar and said, oh, okay, I must be mixed up. Oh, we got it on the 23rd. And then I went a little bit farther and said, oh, shoot, I forgot to move that on the calendar. So I know it doesn't mean much, but I just want to directly
It's
apologize.
okay, Matt.
Yeah.
In your absence, we elected you chair for the next year, so.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I really do apologize. Anyways, yeah, thank you for stepping up too for running the meeting.
Great, thanks, everybody.
Thank you for stepping
All
up.
right, hearing no opposition to adjournment. Meeting adjourned. All right. Great, thanks.
Thanks for stepping up to be in person for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was-
Yeah.